Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Ola and this is my outdoor ways. Today I'm gonna split an ash log to make some axe handle billets using this mallet and a couple of other tools that will be revealed later in the video. I have a lot of axes to hang and some axes that need new handles. Some are for felling, some for limbing or splitting, others for hewing or carpentry or carving. And there's also a little bit of collecting going on as well. I find it difficult to find suitable handles in retail for all these kinds of axes. And I also want to develop my skills and self-reliance and make the handles myself rather than relying on someone just selling them to me. Now I don't know about you, but instead of just collecting tools, I like to use them and actually make stuff. So if you like those ideas as well, I suggest you watch this video. This isn't a freshly cut log, it's been laying outside for at least a year. So it started to crack already. I'm gonna utilize that natural crack to split the log. And it goes up to the center and then there are several cracks that run out. So I'm gonna use this big crack and try to force the log to split in the same direction up here. I have a felling axe and similar style boys axe. They should split the log. Now, before anyone asks why I don't use a water level or a plumb bob to position the log so I have the crack in a plumb line, I use a shark string to transfer to the other end of the log and match that plumb line in the center there. It's because there is quite a lot of twist in this log, so I will never be able to force the crack to run straight. So I'm just gonna let it split as it wants to, and I'll adjust the pieces later for my intended use. Since it was a lot easier to induce a crack with a smaller boys axe, I'm now switching and putting the larger felling axe in the end of the log, continuing inducing a crack along the log with the small axe. I'm gonna try and guide the crack a little bit and see if I can reduce the twist just slightly. I'm trying to overlap the cuts so the crack won't run out too much in between them.
I'm also trying to match the lean of the boy's axe to the tilt of the crack. Now that I didn't use a water level to put the crack in a plumb position, I don't mind doing it this way, since it will not be super precise anyway, splitting a twisted log. But I'm trying to follow it a little bit to make it hopefully a better end result when the log comes apart. I think it's time for a new tool. Or tools, I should say. A couple of oak wedges and the largest hammer I own. Shut up, Attila. Wooden mallets on metal tools and metal hammers on wooden tools. It's as simple as that. I'm placing a few of the oak wedges in the crack along the log as well to help widen it evenly. It's crackling nicely all along the log now. It's a bit like frying bacon. Shouldn't fry on too high heat. It's the same thing here, shouldn't go too fast. Try to maintain some control. I'm gonna try and match the crack on this end now to the crack where I started. Now I can just sight along my ruler and aim for the axe handle on the other end. That'll give me a pretty good idea on how the crack runs. Now I do understand the temptation to use a metal hammer on the pole of your axe. It tends to bounce out when you try to force it into the end of a hard log, but doing so you damage the pole and create mushrooming, which can be seen on way too many old axes, and also on quite a few that are not that old. So I hope I can help the crack widen and make it easier to penetrate the end grain with the axe, putting an oak wedge at the top part of the end of the log. This oak wedge gets a little bit in the way for the axe, of course, but I'll try to work around it. If force doesn't cut it, try using more force, or a different type of force. I have these old metal wedges that are probably made for splitting rocks. At least that's what I've been using them for. But I've also split some gnarly wood with them. And these I can hammer in with a metal hammer. But they also tend to bounce a bit. Work better than the axe though. Now that the crack is well on its way, I'll remove the steel wedges and continue with the axe instead. I'm placing a couple of wedges 2 and 2 to widen the crack further. Then I start chopping the wood fibers inside of the crack that hold the log together diagonally because of the twist. You always get a little bit of that in any log, but perhaps a little bit more in a twisted one like this. The crack didn't quite want to play along at this end. Split here instead of here where I tried to steer it. This is actually more in the center. So I'm just gonna let the log split apart as it wants and see what I can do with it later. As expected, there's a fair amount of twist in the crack. One closest to me is slightly better than the other one. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll hew this flat and try to split some boards out of it. The other one I will split into bolts for axe handles, because I need a lot of axe handles. And ash is one of the best woods for it. That's actually the main reason I brought this home to start with. I'm gonna continue the project today, creating some axe handle bolts from one of the halves of the log. So there is a nice crack running straight up in the middle of it, so I'm gonna start with following that and see how it goes. Once you've done the first drive or split and you have the log into halves, then it's a lot easier to get it apart in smaller bits. I proceed with driving the pieces into what I believe is a good size axe billets. At this point I really wish I had a throw. Maybe the next time I shoot a video of wood driving I've gotten one. For now I'll have to do with axes and oak wedges. Actually, the piece that came off here would make a pretty good plank. I'm gonna save that for lumber. I'm gonna hew that later and build something out of it. A throw would have made it easier to control the crack, I guess, but there's also the matter of the twist in the log. It's a lot wider up at this end than here. And when I try splitting it or riving it from this end, it runs out. So it doesn't really create good handle billets. It creates perfectly decent boards, but perhaps I'll have to rive this into boards and see if this other piece will make a billet or two. There are some natural cracks I want to utilize. There's no good trying to fight those, you just have to work with them. I think this could work. I'm gonna save that. Since I'm finding it a bit difficult controlling the crack when I rive this log, I'm gonna try and split out one more board from this piece, saving what's left after that as an axe handle billet. The best thing with this log seems to be looking at the natural cracks on the surface of the log and try to follow those. At the moment this process just feels very annoying. The cracks won't run along the grain, they just keep running out. I'm not sure what causes it. Maybe it would have been easier riving this log when it was freshly cut. If you have any thoughts on the matter, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I will attempt to cut away some of this sapwood. Since it seems like the cracks want to run out and not in, it should be pretty safe if I just have at it with an axe. I hope I can get a decent handle out of this. I'm gonna try and use this curve here for the back part of the handle, so I can get it to bend down a bit towards the end and the palms well. But it's very thick, so I'm going to try and hew it down a little bit. Now the project is turning a bit extra interesting for me, because this is the first time I'm trying this out. Maybe not all are familiar with it, but it's a carpentry axe from one of the more mythical Swedish axe forges. It's a Handtool axe. So I'm gonna use that to hew off a little bit from the axe handle billet. Right, I'm gonna leave it like this until I know what axe head I need to make a handle for. It's a bit more uniform thickness now. Still very hefty, but I'll take it inside of the workshop and let it rest until I need it. Alright, time to split this one then. I'm removing the heartwood because just as the sapwood, that's of lower quality and can't be used for an axe handle. Carving with the boys' axe. When I have this next, I take away the sapwood, and that leaves me with a billet I can save in the workshop for later. Well, there's another one, pretty decent I think. Bit of twist in it, but I think it can make a handle. This one has a really problematic crack. It runs up and along it diagonally, almost, well, at least to half the length of it. But it's pretty flat and decent down here. So either I can make short planks of it, or I can rive it into hatchet handle billets. I'm gonna leave it for now anyway. I have 3 billets that I think will work, and a couple of roughly riven board shaped things here. That's not so bad for a twisted hard log. Well, I'm packing up for today. It's getting a bit dark. And I've done what I need to now as for splitting the rough materials for handles out of the log. And also gotten a few roughly riven boards as a bonus. I'll try to get hold of some more straight grained material next time I need to rive handle billets, or lumber for that matter. This was half the log. 3 pretty decent billets, a couple of boards and something here that can be turned into either short boards or short handle billets. The way it behaved, and how the cracks ran, and how the twist was oriented in them. I'm not disappointed with that. If you have any thoughts on this project, please put them down in the comments field. I love to hear from you. And I try to answer everyone who comments. Right now, it's not really much of a problem since the channel isn't that big. So put down whatever you think about this in the bottom here. Any suggestions or ideas would be much appreciated. Well, sooner or later I'll make a handle of one of those billets. I hope you will be back to see that. A good way to be back here is to subscribe, of course, so you know when I post anything new. And until next time, take care of yourselves.